Thank you for joining us here today at Levittown Public Library. Today is January 10th, 2022. Here is Kimberly with the Nagasku program. Go ahead, Kim.
Love that new intro for a new year. Welcome back, everybody. Anyone who's new, let's go over the important things. What's most important is that I don't live in your body, you do. So if something doesn't feel right to you, please stop the movement or stop whatever the heck it is that you're doing that doesn't feel right. I'll give as many modifications as I can, but if something's not working out, just skip it. It's all right. This is a program that's based around your posture. There are no good or bad postures, but when the body memorizes things over time based on what you're giving it, it can get itself a little twisted. And just like your car, if your wheels or your frame are twisted, you're going to wear out parts prematurely. Same thing goes for your body. So what we're going to do is give your body some stimulus and your body will auto-correct itself. That's what we're relying on, the body's wisdom. We're not shaming the body. We're not saying, hey, that's wrong. We're just doing what we can, trying to recruit the muscles that might have fallen asleep. So that in mind, the tools that we're going to be using today, disregard this one, that's mine. We're going to be using blocks or pillows, just a single. I know I have two. That's just in case I come up with something funky. Blocks or pillows. If you guys have yoga blocks, you're going to use that. If you have an Nagasku block, great, use that. Otherwise, take a pillow off of your bed. You're going to fold it in half because you want a lot of resistance when we do use it. You don't want something to collapse on you. So you want to fold that pillow in half if you took it off of your bed. The other thing that we're going to be using today is a strap. This is just a belt. You don't want to use a fashion belt and you don't want to use a PT belt. You want, again, a lot of resistance. So when I push out on this, it's not moving. So use a real belt, real man's belt, or a yoga strap like I have. Other thing we're going to be using today is a regular chair or an ottoman. I avoid using beds because beds have a tendency to be really tall nowadays. This is for our floor work so that when we lay down, we put our legs up on something, we can trap the body in 90 degrees. So if you need to add more pillows or maybe put up a pile of books or even like a cooler, a Coleman cooler has worked for me in the past. We're going to be using that. You know what? I feel like starting out today with a little bit of an assessment. So everybody stand up and we're going to assess ourselves, see where we're at. Just march in place a few steps, get yourself relaxed, and then stop moving. Check it out. Where am I leaning? More left, more right, more back, more front? Maybe it's shifting back and forth. Maybe I don't feel okay standing here. Maybe I'm one of those people who likes to do the shifting thing. Now I want you to do a functional test, another one. You're going to bend over towards your toes. I don't care if you touch your toes. That's not the goal. We're just going to see what we feel, where we end up. And if I hang out here, actually, my fingers aren't even grazing the ground this morning. Interesting. Come up. One more functional test, everybody. We're going to lift up a knee, the height of your hip. I don't care which one. And just notice what happens. Also notice which leg you lifted up first. Usually whatever leg is down on the ground, that's the side you're leaning more heavily towards. So just keep those in the back of your mind, what happened during your functional test, because as we go back to these, it's going to change. It can change in one or even two moves. We're going to start out with foot circles, point flexes today. So I want everybody to come down to the floor. If you can't hit the floor, go ahead and lay on the bed, lay on the couch. No excuses, no excuses. Do something. Even if you can't do this stuff on the floor or laying down, so get in a chair and do it. This is how ankle circles, point flexes work. I'm going to leave my left leg straight out on the floor and I'm going to hug my right knee in towards my chest. But if you looked at me from my feet, you'd see that my feet and legs stay in the same width as my hips. So when I pull the leg in, I'm not letting the leg deviate out towards the side. I'm keeping it in line with my hips. Really important stuff. If you can't reach your knee, go ahead and grab that strap and put it behind your leg and hang on to the strap. No, again, no excuses. Just do something. So the leg that I've got hanging in the air here, I'm going to take just the ankle through outward rotation. Now, here's where a lot of us go wrong here, especially if you've never done this before. You're going to start moving through your knee. Don't you dare do it. Keep your knee still, move only the ankle. The other thing is, there's a tendency to drop your heel to your butt. I want your shin to stay parallel to the floor. And if you've never tested this before, go ahead and test and see what the difference in sensation is. If you drop your heel to your butt and do your circles, as opposed to lifting your heel the same height as your knee and do your circles, you feel that in your hip? It's such a small difference, but it makes all the difference. We're going to take the circles in now. Inward rotation. Again, it's just my ankle moving. I am pulling through my toes. I'm letting my toes separate, but I'm not moving from my knee. In fact, I can pull my hip into deeper flexion, so I'm going to, being a little lazy on these. I just pulled my knee even closer to my chest because I can. Our body is designed to be able to do that. And you'll notice over time, we don't bend and stretch and squat nearly as much as we could. I'm not going to say should, but that's just what happens. And then the muscles forget how to go into these ranges of motion. So best time to do this is right now on the floor when it's not under load. So I'm just hugging my knee in as deep as I can. And now I'm going to do point flexes. So point your toes away from you and then pull them back towards you. Again, this movement is through the ankle. So it's plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. There will be a test at the end. Sometimes I forget to mention, what the heck are we doing with the leg that's down on the ground? Now, I do want that leg to stay active in the way that I want your toes and your kneecap to point towards the sky. So I don't want the leg to flop out to the side. I did forget to mention that. So you don't have to keep the thigh tight and yank your ankle backwards. No, no, no. I just want you to use the muscles in your hips to keep your toes directed towards the sky on the leg that's straight on the ground. Everybody ready to switch? I sure as heck am. Now, I'm not going to talk so much on this other side because this side is hard for me. I have to coordinate, and it really gets all funky when I start talking. Instead of making circles, I'm making squiggly lines and squares. It's like a modern piece of art. So I'm going through the outward rotations first. Again, make sure your heel isn't dropped down to your butt. You want your shin, this lower part of your leg, to be parallel to the floor. That's going to give us access to the muscles of the hip. As soon as that knee bends more, the hip starts shutting down in a certain way. So we don't want that. It's all mechanics, everybody. I hope you're paying attention to your right leg. You want the toes to point to the sky. So don't let that leg flop out. Just use your hip to point your toes and your kneecap to the sky. This is a doozy to start out with. We're going to go in now. You might feel some burning or just feel tired. And I do love being sarcastic. So I'm just going to mimic Brian Bradley. He's the vice president of Egoscue, and say, welcome to muscles that don't work. I miss that sarcasm. You guys think that I talk a lot. Goodness, if you've ever listened to Brian Bradley, he does not stop. But it's all good information. Okay, I'm heading into the point flexes now. It's a bit of a misnomer because we're not pointing and flexing. We're actually pulling the ankle into dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. It's just a layman's term of point flex. It makes sense. Keep pointing and flexing, everybody. Looking good. You got to go slower. You go slower. It doesn't matter. We're going to head on into the next move called the hip lift. This one is tough. So if you need to modify for this one, maybe you're not laying on the ground, you can do this sitting in a chair. Absolutely. It's just going to be way harder. The easier version of hip lift is to leave your foot on the floor and don't lift up at all. Just turn it into a stretch and a little bit of an isometric exercise where you're pushing and pulling and holding. But for those of you that are ready to come the full way, it starts laying in our hook lying position. We're going to keep the knees bent and keep your feet parallel. They're in line with your hips. Again, this is really important stuff. Don't want your feet really wide. Don't want your feet narrow. In fact, a way to get to hip distance is touch your knees and ankles together, and you're going to walk your feet apart, heel, toe, done. Again, I'll do it. Heel, toe, and that's usually hip distance. This is our hook line position. I'm going to cross my left ankle to my right knee. This might be as far as some of you are willing to go. This might be really challenging already. The rest of the move in hip lift is to lift your right leg up off of the floor, and this is where the work takes place. So if this is difficult for you already, then just hang out here and enjoy the stretch for a minute. Everybody else, we're going to go further. I'm going to pull the knee in towards the chest until it's right over the hip. Now here's where the push-pull happens. Your left knee draws away from you. Your right knee pulls in. You feel that work? 1 minute. Again, if I turn towards the camera, my heel is still in line with my hip. I'm not taking the leg out, not taking the leg in. I'm keeping it in line with my hip. And there's a push-pull relationship going on here between my right knee pulling in and my left knee drawing away. No hands. This is not a stretch. This is work. Even though you're going to feel some stretching and some work happening, the type of style that Egoscue is similar to yoga, where it incorporates stretching with work. If you need a break, then take a break. If you need to do this in a chair, you can certainly do this in a chair. Look, I'm at 90 degrees. I'm sitting in a chair. Same thing. Same thing, but it's really hard to pick your leg up off of the floor. Pick your foot off the floor. Okay, switch. Hope you felt all of that work either in your hip or maybe in your thigh moving towards the hip. I'm going to go right ankle to left knee now. And if you're ready to come along, pull the knee in. Remember, it's a relationship here. Left knee pulls in, right knee draws away. You have to use the muscles of your hips in order to do that. But guaranteed, you're feeling this all over the darn place. All of the weight of your legs is actually pivoting on this leverage point of your tailbone and the muscles that connect through there into your lower back. So your abs now have to turn on to stabilize your body, the part that's still on the floor, to hold all this weight. So there's a lot going on. Caught myself being a little bit lazy. I was just pulling my left knee in without drawing my right knee away. So I'm just reminding myself and you, left knee pulls in, right knee draws away. I'm gonna have an easy one after this, you'll like it. Relax. We're gonna come back to the first move of the hip lift. We're gonna cross the left ankle to the right knee, and now we're gonna take it into hip crossover stretch. So it's a similar setup, except we're going to twist through the lower back and let the legs fall over to the side. I'll show you what that looks like from the front. I'm going to put my arms out to a T and go palms face down. Ankle is on my knee, and I let my legs fall to the right. You might not be able to hit the floor. That's okay. But I don't want your foot to slide along the floor. This is how to cheat. You don't want to do that. If I come back, where's my heel? It's in line with my other hip. No. Keep it in line with your hip. Twist. 1 minute. So this is very similar to the last move that we did, except we're adding this rotation through the pelvis. Now, I don't want the knee to flop towards the chest. You want, in a perfect world, to draw the knee away from you until it's pointed straight up at the sky. That's hip crossover stretch. I'll show you again from another angle. Usually in these twisty moves, the head is pointed in the opposite direction. But again, listen to your body. If something doesn't feel right, go ahead and turn the head up towards the sky, or maybe you need a pillow. I don't know. Anytime I offer a pillow to you guys, it's not because I want you to be comfortable. And there's a reason for that. We're going to switch to the other side. It's because we want your body to realign itself. So I'm crossing my right ankle to my left knee, and now I'm twisting through my lower back. So if your shoulders are in such a compromised position that it puts your head in a different zip code than the rest of your body, you have really, really forward head. When you come to some of these floor exercises, it might start causing so much neck tension because your face is looking behind you. You don't have the ability to look up towards the ceiling just yet. So if that's happening, put a pillow underneath your head until the muscles and the tissues start remembering and start changing the position of your head. It usually doesn't take long, but you'll notice, I might not need this pillow anymore. Again, we're paying attention to our knee. We want to make sure that it's pointing up towards the sky, but I'm using my hip muscles to do that. I'm not touching my legs with my hands to push. This is not about stretching. This is about work and reactivating sleeping muscles and muscle groups. I'm going to flip you over onto hands and knees for cats and dogs. If you can't do it on hands and knees, you're just going to sit in your chair and do the same thing. Arch your back, round your back. It's very easily done sitting in a chair. As is that twisty move we just did on the floor. You can certainly do that on a chair. Sit in a chair, cross your legs, twist your chest in one direction. So 10 cats and dogs. If your wrists are hurting today, maybe you want to do it on your fists. Maybe you want to do it in a chair. But notice when I'm doing the cats and dogs, I am getting motion in my shoulder blades. That's where I'm almost finishing the move. Shoulder blades come back and down, elbows stay nice and straight no matter what I do. There was a time when I didn't have this much movement in my shoulders. They were really stuck due to my hips not doing their work. So my shoulders got really tight and I got stuck. No amount of yoga was fixing it, but as I did at Gosku, it actually changed my yoga. Great, we're gonna do a kneeling groin stretch next, everybody. This one's not a comfortable one, but I'll give you a harder version of it if you want it. Kneeling groin stretch is similar to a quad stretch, so I'll show you how to do it modified standing up. I come from hands and knees. I'm going to place my right foot where my right hand is. Take a nice big step forward. I'm going to press myself upright. The trailing leg, I'm getting a nice stretch, a lengthening in the front where my hip is. Also getting a little bit of a stretch into my quadricep. That's my thigh muscle. You want a harder version of this? You can definitely trap your leg up against the wall, which I showed on one of my Thursday classes. This is a toughie. You can trap your leg up against the wall. Some of you might enjoy that. And then come forward. That's called screaming pigeon. Or you want an easier version, you can stand up, hook your foot on a chair, and just get a stretch there. 1 minute, wherever the heck you are. Same idea. I do catch a lot of people leaning on their leg with their body. That might happen, and it's not a bad thing, but we do want to get some activation. So maybe you took a step way too far forward. You might want to take your step back if that's happening to you and get yourself into a position where you can actually come up a bit. So we want the muscles on the hips to start to remember how to stabilize. Need something to hang on to? Maybe you do, then hang on to something. That's my evil little book. Over the years, I've put all the sequences together and just threw them in that book. It's a good book. Switch, going to the other side, just 1 minute, everybody. I forgot to add, when you do this step forward, you don't want your back leg to move. When you start out, you should be able to look in between your legs and not see your ankle. The body will do all sorts of things to avoid load, to avoid expending energy. And if it's spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years doing the same pattern, it's not going to want to change that pattern. So we have to pay attention to our form, change the pattern, and then it's going to relearn how to recruit the muscles. which is actually going to end up in it expending less energy, believe it or not. But you've just patterned it over the years based on the movements that you've done or not done, right? Again, you should feel some stretching down the hip of the leg that's down, even some stretching in your back. Definitely work as well. Okay, I'm going to come back to cats and dogs again, do 10 of those. Another thing you could do if cats and dogs is bothering you is flip over on your back to our hook lying position, and you can just rock your pelvis forward and back. Same idea. So if you looked at my pelvis doing this motion, posterior tilt, anterior tilt, posterior, anterior. You can do the same thing laying on your back. We're going to do a downward facing dog. If you guys know yoga and you like yoga, go ahead and take your normal downward facing dog position. But when I do it, it's a Egoscue style because my hips, like many of your hips, are in their shutting down phase, and they shouldn't be. So I bend my knees deeply and try to get my weight over my hips so I can try to pull my hips back using my legs rather than pushing my hips back using my arms. And it's kind of like this love-hate relationship. If I was there with you, and I know some of you have experienced that before, I'd put my hands on your hips and start to draw your legs back, and all of a sudden your legs turn on, and the reaction from everyone is, "Oh, yeah." It takes a little bit of coaxing sometimes to get your downward facing dog to be hip driven rather than arm driven. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come on out. I'm going to take you guys down to the floor, please. And I want you to bring your strap, and I want you to bring your block. And that might be your pillow. Remember, if it's your pillow and you're new to this, fold your pillow in half, maybe even in threes. I'm going to take my roll, and I'm putting my roll underneath my lower back. We're going to go for frog position, and we're going to work into the shoulders. Put over the side so you guys can see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, frog position is Supta Baddha Konasana. You guys know Sanskrit, right? It's just putting the soles of your feet together and letting your legs flop out to the side. You can do this sitting in a chair. You don't have to do this laying on the floor. I am using a roll under my lower back because I already know that my lower back loves to go flat. Without your roll, you should notice if you go from knees pointing to the sky to knees pointing out to the side, you should feel your pelvis tipping forward and your lower back should actually make a curve in it. That's what should naturally happen if the muscles are turning on correctly. Me, I have that tendency to go flat even when my legs turn out. So I'm just putting this roll underneath me. This is not for everybody, and it's certainly not for beginners if you don't understand what your body's doing just yet. So all we're doing is laying here just for a couple of minutes. We've got about 1 more minute more. No, my knees are not touching the floor. I know a lot of people, their psychology tells them, oh, her knees are hitting the floor. Nah, double check, they're not. So your legs might look like this. Maybe they're hanging out in space. Whatever it is, we also have to remember to take what the body can give. And again, this move can be done sitting in a chair. You don't have to be laying down. It could be done sitting on the floor. Kids do it all the time. Now, if you are in a chair trying to get this done, it's going to be a little bit tough to do the next move, but it will work. We're going to do pullovers. Now reach your arms up towards the sky. Elbows stay straight. Remember, elbows stay straight. Palms touch, interlace your fingers. Drop your arms backwards overhead and return over your chest. These are pullovers. Take a look at your hands. You want your hands to be guided directly over your nose, past your forehead, past your head. You want to keep it along the axis of your spine. Your elbows must stay straight. It's not important to hit the ground. I know I'm sick of hearing myself say these things. That's why on Thursdays I was teaching classes to people who've been with me for a while, and I don't have to over-explain some of these moves. I may start that up again, so you have to get on my email list if you want to be notified. That's my full name at Gmail. But you've got to make sure that you don't hit the floor by cheating. So right now I hit this spot and my shoulder gets a little tight and I really want to hit the floor because, you know, we want to do what's right. We want to do it the best, right? So I bend my elbows. No. We're trying to teach the shoulders and also the hips how to go through this range of motion. It's stimulus again. Such a simple move. It could be so challenging. So challenging. Fantastic, friends. I hope you have your block or your pillow nearby like I asked you. We're going to come into the hook lying position, which just means our knees are bent. Remember what I showed you before. If you're new, you put the ankles and the knees together and we walk them apart, heel, toe. That keeps your feet and your knees in line with your hips. We don't want wider, we don't want narrower. We're trying to reteach the body how to recruit the muscles. Just put your block or your pillow between your knees, and these are knee pillow squeezes. You can do these sitting in a chair. You can do these with a bear. Dr. Seuss, right? I'm not squeezing with all of my might. It is a repetitive squeeze, so I'm going over and over. Maybe 50% of my effort, maybe 30% of my effort. This is about balance. So I'm giving you enough reps so that the body can change. If you kill it and you give it 100% effort, your body is not going to recruit the muscles we're looking for. It's going to compensate. So that's why we want to dial back the effort. And you'll find that a lot in Egoscue. It's not about giving as much effort. In fact, you'll get so many reps that you'll be so tired. It's about changing the pattern of recruitment. And when that happens, your body can actually experience some ease. It doesn't take as much effort to do some of the daily work that you do, because instead of running on like a car, if you have a 6-cylinder, instead of running on 3 cylinders, you're running on all 6. Again, I'm just putting the roll underneath my lower back because of my postural deviations. As you get to know me, you'll start to learn about postural deviations. And if you don't know it, you could, if you search my name on search, as I'm hesitating to say Google because they're evil. Don't be evil, right? So if you search my name, you'll find my YouTube channel, and I've got a whole series on learning about posture, learning how to differentiate between different postures and find out what your posture is doing. I teach you how to do it. Fantastic, everybody. We're going to do gluteal contractions. So take your pillow out. We're still in the hook lying position, everybody. You're just going to squeeze your butt cheeks together and then let them go. Squeeze and let them go over and over. Now, I know some of you are new. If you feel like you're using your abdominals or your belly muscles, that's a no-no. So put your hands on your belly. Check it out. Am I squeezing my abs to squeeze my butt? Now put your hands on your butt. Is your butt actually contracting? If it's not, you're in some serious compensation, but I've got the cure. You can extend your legs straight out on the floor and now try to squeeze your butt. Guaranteed you're going to be able to do it at that point. So if you can't recruit your glutes with your knees and your hips in flexion, we've got to take your knees and your hips into extension in order to recruit them. So we have to grab them somewhere. And remember what I said earlier about overemphasis and too much effort. The harder you try with this, go ahead and try. Try to squeeze your butt real hard. You notice you contract your abs, even your shoulders. Don't do that. Try less and you'll actually do more. They're just glute squeezes, and they're tougher to do in different positions for everyone. Standing is totally different than laying here on the floor. Standing in tandem, one leg in front of each other, that's totally different than laying on the floor. So it's adding different load to your hips, and they may not be able to recruit evenly. Okay, friends, I hope you kept your strap nearby. I'm going to take the strap and you're going to put it around the legs. We're going to do some not abdominal. We're not doing abdominal anything, Kim. We're going to put the strap around the legs and doing abductor presses. So when I put the strap around my knees, I'm tightening it up again so that I keep it in hip distance. So that's about the length of a dollar bill between the center line of my kneecaps. That's it. So if I put $1 here, that's as wide as I want to be. Same thing with the feet and your ankles. I'm laying down again. Again, if you're new, no towel, no roll for you. Don't put that underneath your lower back just because you see me doing it. That's more psychology of the instructor-student mentality. Don't do it. Press out on your strap or your belt. Maybe you have a rope. Maybe you took a line off of your boat, not back. Press out and release over and over. You don't have to be on the floor for this stuff. You can do this stuff very easily sitting in a chair. That is basically the position that I'm in right now. My hips are bent, my knees are bent. I'm in almost a sitting position right now. Remember, you want to work on balance here. This isn't about effort. The harder you press, the more muscles we're going to recruit, and you're probably compensating. We'll save the hard stuff for, well, right after this move, really. A lot of the stuff that I keep towards the end is strengthening stuff anyway. So we realign the body as best we can. And then the moves that I save for strengthening also realign, but they add strength. They add strength. So it requires more effort on your part just to get them done. But it's also a Egoscue style. So we're straightening while we strengthen. So that even athletes don't have to be bored. If you want to look up online and see some of the hardest workouts that Pete has and the workouts that I used to do when I went out to California, you just look up, I think Coach Glass had a great video. He went to Egoscue and he took them through the Egoscue patch workout. And it's like training for the Marines, really. It's a lot of fun though, a lot of fun. Excellent workouts. Stuff that you could do at a kid's playground around here. All right, guys, I hope as you're pressing out on this, you're feeling this work maybe take itself into your butt or the outside of your hips. I hope that's where we're getting. If we're not, it doesn't matter because we are moving on. We're moving on. All right, incline push-ups. These are the easy push-ups because we're going to take it onto a wall for incline push-ups. I love using my windowsill. This is where I do my push-ups to help my shoulder. But you can just press your hands up against the wall and just walk your feet as far back as you feel comfortable. But what you want to do is keep your feet in line with your hips. Again, again, again. Feet don't turn out, feet don't turn in. I'm not wide stance, I am hip distance. Thighs stay tight, no bending of the knees. Egoscue push-ups are similar to when we do the cats and dogs. So when we do the push-ups, I like to keep my shoulders pinned on my back. So I squeeze my shoulder blades together and I keep them there, even though I'm dipping my nose towards the floor or the wall. So you get yourself positioned on your door or on your wall, or I'm going to go to the windowsill because I need just a little bit more. And we're just going to do 10 push-ups. If you can't squeeze that out, then I want you to squeeze out 1 push-up. The closer you walk to your wall, the easier it'll be. Pin your shoulders back and down and go for your push-ups, wherever they are. I don't care how low you go. Doesn't matter. So what if you don't touch your nose to the wall? Try to keep your shoulders pinned on your back. Even when we do these on the floor, shoulders stay back and down. It's a different style. So we're trying to teach the shoulders to remember, hey, this is where you belong. Believe it or not, all of that work that goes into my shoulder, when I come down to that position, it stretches and pulls, and I can pick my arm up way higher over my head. So I require strong movements in order to get my shoulder to remember where to go. Spread foot forward, bend, and side to side touches are next. I don't know what the heck else to call these things. So we're going to spread the legs open really wide, but keep your feet parallel. If you don't hit the floor, who cares? It's not important. Go to a shin, go to your knee. I don't care. We're going to do this for a minute, and we're going to go back and forth between each toe or each knee. Doesn't matter where. But what I'd like you to do is not bend the knees and try and reach over. What I want you to do is keep your knees straight and try to keep your pelvis in place. So when I reach over, I'm not dropping my hip to get there. Keep your legs right where they are and your hips right where they are. 1 minute, we're just going to go back and forth. That's it. Back and forth. I don't care if you could touch your toes or not. Maybe you can't. Maybe all you can get is a knee. But keep your pelvis in place. If it's too tiring, stop. Do 2 of them. But we got to do something. 27 of you registered for this class. Usually I'm getting, I don't know, 10, 15. So that tells me that a lot of you jumped on board this whole New Year's resolution kind of blah, blah, blah thing. So I hope you stick around. Chances are you may not, because that's what happens. Everybody waits for this certain time to say, okay, now I'm going to do it. The best time to do it is now. How about this? When is now going to be a good time? So just do it and stick with it. Stick with something. Don't have to do a million of these. Do 2. That's it. And come on out. Whew. Hope you got your heart rate up just a little bit. That was my intention. Mountain climbers are next. These are not easy. You don't have to do them on the floor. You could do them on the wall again. So mountain climbers, you know what, I'll show you on the floor. Mountain climbers is not about bringing your knee into your chest. It's about bringing your foot forward and keeping it in line with your hip. I see so many people do these mountain climbers where they step, 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 and they're not actually making a full step. These are their mountain climbers. Nope. It's a full step, just like we did in our first move today. You want to teach the hips how to come into deep flexion. I don't care how fast you're going. I don't care if you're doing this on the wall. Maybe you want to do this on the wall. Do something. I'm going to do them on the floor, and I'm just going to go through 20. What I want you to do is keep your knee in line with your hip, no matter what. Don't let the leg come out to the side. I don't care how deep you come, but keep it in line with your hip. I'm going to keep the speed up, and I'm going for 20. Everybody ready? You can even sit and watch me if you don't want to do them. It's cool. Ready? Here I go. Again, my knee's in line with my hip. I'm not letting it dart out. If you stopped to watch me, good. I did all your work for you. That's it, mountain climbers. And that's the real deal for mountain climbers. Air bench is next. We're going to use a door or we're going to use a wall. You can lay in static back if you wanted to, but I'd rather you guys do something that's got a little bit more meat to it. So air bench, if you're using a wall, make sure the wall, no, the door, if you're using a door, you want to make sure the door is coming into the closed position. Don't lean on the integrity of the latch. I'm walking my feet out further than my knees, and I'm dropping my hips down. If this starts to hurt your knees, bring your hips up higher on the wall. But again, you guys keep it hip distance, period. Remember, my feet are out further than my knees. So this is a different style than you might see in CrossFit, right? CrossFit, they keep 90 degrees. What I want you to do here is push your lower back into the wall. We're doing that using our thighs. So we're actually reducing any pelvic rotation we might have induced doing the mountain climbers. So you'll notice a lot of these moves go back and forth between, okay, this might have twisted shoulders or pelvis, boom, straighten it. Then go back into another move. Usually we hold this for 2 minutes. Do it maybe a minute and a half, a little bit longer. Make sure your knees don't dive out or dive in. If you're having a hard time holding them straight, put a block in between your knees or a pillow between your knees. That'll stop it. Our next move is going to hit on the floor. If you can't do this on the floor, you could do it on a chair. It's called hip ups. I know Peter Gaskew is all about layman's terms, but hip ups is tabletop. If you can't make it to the floor, here's your tabletop on a chair. That's it. I'm going to do it from the floor. I'm going to try for 20, see what my shoulder can do. It's always funny. So again, tabletop. Feet point straight ahead. They're in line with my hips. I don't care where your hands go. You'll notice if you turn your hands towards your butt or turn your hands away from you, you're going to be recruiting different muscles. So feel it out for yourself, wherever you want to go. And tabletop it. It's a hip up. Lift and lower. 19. 18. I just showed you how to do this on a chair. Very easy doing it on a chair. It's going to be easy. Easy on a chair. I don't care how high you get either. If you just lift a little bit, maybe if you just do 2, that's cool as well. If this is bothering your wrists or your shoulders, here's an alternative. Bridge. Same idea. It's just not engaging the shoulders in a way that might be painful to you. I know some of you have got some shoulder injuries. So bridge. You can do bridge. I've got 8 more. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hope you're still with me, everybody. I can't tell how many of you I might have lost. We're going to do jumping jacks next. Jumping jacks can be really easy. Water. Modified version of jumping jacks. Could be something that looks like this. We are going for clapping overhead. You might not make it there, but I want you to keep your elbows as straight as you can so that you go, oh, okay, this is as far as I can go. Don't give me jumping jacks here. That don't work. So we want to ask the shoulder to go through its full range of motion. If it bothers you coming to here, then don't come so high, come here. But here's your slow jumping jack. With no jump, you can do that. Otherwise, I'm going for 50. Full on jumping jacks, and I'm keeping my feet pointed straight ahead, they stay parallel. Remember, this move is about getting your shoulders to go through range of motion, but also reminding your hips how to load. I don't care if you even do jumping jacks with just your legs. Here's jumping jacks with just legs. I just came up with it. How's it look? So there's that. Get creative. I love the creativity everybody's got. That's what keeps this going. And relax. Relax, Kim, relax. And grab some more water. I'm going back into cats and dogs. Back into cats and dogs. Either sitting or on hands and knees. We're going to do this for a full minute. Ooh, got a nice back crack there. Just like our push-ups, remember how our shoulders came back and down? This is where they should be doing that. When you come into the anterior pelvic tilt and your face looks forward, your shoulders should come back and down. Then the shoulder blades protract as you tuck under. Back and forth. Very nice, everybody. Downward facing dog for 1 minute is next. I forgot to show you a modified version of downward facing dog. You can do it on the wall. I'll show you that now. Either go into your regular downward dog or do it on the wall. So on the wall is going to take the load off of your shoulders. I'm trying to keep my hips right over my heels again. And I'm putting my hands on the wall, keeping my elbows nice and straight. Thighs stay tight. This is another modified version of downward facing dog. If this bothers your shoulders to come here, maybe you want to stance your arms out wider. Maybe you don't even want to do that. Maybe you just want to take a break for a minute. That's okay. Okay, minute is done. I want you guys to grab your static back block or your chair, whatever it may be. And we're going to hang out in the static back for a few minutes. And then I'll remind myself to get up and reassess. If you're not laying down on the floor today, this is the same as sitting in a chair. So get yourself a nice square upright chair, walk your tailbone all the way back and allow the chair to help sit you at 90-degree angles. One more time, if you do notice that your shoulders are so rounded that your head's pointing behind you, you might need a little bit of a pillow to keep your face neutral to the ceiling. "90-degree angles does mean that you want your heels the same height as your knees. This is not going to work the same if your heels are above your knees or below your knees. Usually we start out with this move, and it's another functional test to see Where am I at? What's touching the ground? My lower back, my hip, my shoulder, both of them. What do I feel? This move tends to feel like no work is going on, but there is a lot of work going on here. And just a reminder, if you want to stay in touch with any events or anything I'm cooking up, it's my full name at Gmail. Send me a message, I'll put you on my mailing list. I used to have a website, but I don't have it anymore. So the only way to get in contact with me is through that Gmail or my phone. I know some of you really enjoy this twice a week. So you have the opportunity to go back in the videos and maybe rewatch a video, or you can encourage me to do some more live stuff. So reach out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, do an assessment. So right where we started, do a little march in place and check it out. What's different? There is no way that it stayed the same. No way. So I will not accept, oh, it's the same. No way. You can go through some of the functional tests that we did, which is flexion at the hips. The other two I gave you was lifting one of your legs up, knee to hip height, or height. Woo, man, that did change, didn't it? It was good before. You might notice that you sometimes have a little less balance as the body is trying to reorganize itself and figure things out. But I hope you enjoyed it today. If you're brand new, reach out via email. I'd love to get you on my email list. You never know what I come up with. You might enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.